When a recruiter asks you how much money are you expecting to make, that is the first step of them making you work on their time. You just got a 20 to 30% cut in your salary, your very first salary. You haven't done your research, you're not actually worth it, or you're just not a good fit.
Over the shoulder, over the leg, over the coffee. This is Andrew with Data Leap. Welcome to the show. I have my coffee. That's Professor Meatball. My name is Andrew, and today I am going to answer the question, what is one of the trickiest trick questions an interviewer could possibly ask you, and the 2 ways you should be able to answer it if you don't want to be taken advantage of. Let's jump right into it, because I think by the end of this video, you're going to like this video. What are your salary expectations? I've covered this question in TikToks, I've covered this in Instagram Reels, I've covered this in TikToks part 2, but today I'm gonna tell you that this question is meant to do 2 things and 2 things only. 1, make sure that the recruiter is not wasting any of the recruiter's time or the HR team's time by trying to capture a potential candidate that is too expensive for their tastes. Now, to be able to understand what these 2 points are, you're gonna have to think like an interviewer, think like a recruiter, and think like the hiring manager. When a hiring manager, someone who ultimately manages the new hire, the person who is coming into the company, that person puts out a position to be filled, they either go 2 ways. 1, an in-house recruiter who is having a quota, someone who works on the HR team and just needs to fill it in order to make the quota that fills their regular paycheck. That internal recruiter is given a budget of how much money they can spend and how long this hiring process can take. When a company has an internal hiring process, that means that they're usually at a stage where they can afford an internal hiring process. Now that you understand that there's exactly 2 elements, 1, how much time they are willing to spend on each candidacy, which could be just a 30-minute call every week or so as they get an interview after an interview after an interview. Usually there's only 5 or 6 steps maximums. The 6th step would be a on-site interview, either on campus at the location, or more likely nowadays it's all Zoom calls. A first trap question an interviewer asks is, how much do you expect to make? The timelines of different positions are different, because an engineer that needs to fix the backend ASAP because otherwise we lose thousands of customers is completely different than an analyst or a data scientist who needs to be able to finalize a fraud detection model that is already in production and just needs a few fine tweaks. The stage of the company matters, so that's why sometimes software engineers who are more senior get to have a lot more asking power because they match that bucket of need to get this person ASAP. Now that you understand that some positions need to be filled faster than others, it gives you a little bit more context. If you are going for a highly paid position that isn't necessarily the most exigent part of their recruiting cycle, then you have the luxury of stepping back and taking your time. When a recruiter asks you how much money are you expecting to make, that is the first step of them making you work on their time. This question is a double-edged sword because it is beneficial for the company in 2 ways. 1, if you say a number, an expectation that is lower than their maximum budget, then they're gonna go with your lower number. If you're happy with a number that is 20% lower or 30% lower, you just got a 20 to 30% cut in your salary, your very first salary. Imagine if you started with that and then had to adjust to the lower salary. That would be outrageous. And you just did it to yourself. The second way that this question is a double-edged sword is that it weeds out candidates that are either dishonest, crazy high expectations, or are just not a good fit. If you're a candidate that says a number that is too high, it could mean a couple of different things. 1, you're dishonest. You think that you should say a high number and then bargain down to the middle, understanding that you are not actually saying a number that you'd be comfortable with as friends, but as negotiation partners. That already puts you on bad footing with the company before the 2nd or 3rd interview even starts. 2, if you say a high number, it could be that you're just too overqualified, and that's a good thing that we figured out right away, because either you are dishonest, either you are out of your mind, or either you are just too expensive. Either way, we don't want to continue on, and you just saved us a ton of time. 3, if you hesitate to say this number and then you come up with some number without a good rationalization, they know that you don't do your research. Due diligence shows a sign of character, and by that, they can either manipulate you by taking a lower number or understand that you are someone who isn't a diligent worker, so they're not going to take you anyway. Either way, it looks bad on you. There is a right way to answer this question, and there's 2 ways to go about it. One is that you do your research. You find out exactly how much other offers from the same company are, which levels.fyi, Glassdoor, and Blind can help you out with a ton. Also, a couple of Reddit forums, but I wouldn't trust the veracity of that information. And then you try to extrapolate from industry trends or inflation or something else that shows your analytical mindset of how much you think this role should be worth today. If you bring up any other kind of news about products that they're trying to build or perhaps new initiatives that they're trying to follow up on, that really helps you in two different ways as well. One, it shows you that you have already done the research about the company, so therefore you are already ingratiated into that system of wanting to learn about the company and then learning more than the average employee. And two, it helps out because it shows that you have a bargaining chip here. Hey, you're trying to invest in the company by finding good talent. I'm the right talent here, and I want to show you that I'm worth it by giving you a premium price. This is how to answer this question if you wanted to actually say an answer. Just one small caveat, you might think that answering lower than the industry standard is a bargaining chip, something that you can use when maybe you're a little more desperate for a job and you want to be able to beat out the competition and say, hey, I know my position is worth $100,000. I'm willing to go $80,000. That is a dangerous slippery slope because there are things on the market called given goods, things that are more valuable if they are more expensive, usually the opposite of any other commodity. And labor is one of those goods if you are in a very highly respected professional field. If you say from the get-go, I'm willing to be paid less than my competitor so that you guys think I'm a more hireable subject, that might be good for the recruiter who doesn't care anything more than just filling the position, but ultimately the hiring manager is going to ask the question, well, if we want the best of the very best, then why would we take you, someone who is willing to work at a discount? Now I'm going to explain exactly how I would answer this question if I didn't want to give them an answer, which is exactly what I do every single time. This is personally what I do every time I'm asked the question, which happens often, pretty darn often in the Silicon Valley space, more and more so often because recruiters need to tighten up that recruiting process and they just need to see if there are some dead ends that they don't want to spend a couple of half dozen work hours on. Recruiting cycle doesn't really take up that much time, honestly. But picking a bad candidate really does mess up a recruiter's ratio of exactly how many leads they find, how many offers they extend, and how many of those turn into actual full-time employees. So the answer, I would not like to answer this question at the time because I make it a point in myself. It's a habit, it's a promise, it's a secret I keep. No, you can just say that this is a principle that I have, that the very first interview, I am just learning about the company, about the culture, and about the products that you guys are working on. So I don't make it a point to say what my value is to the company until the second or third interview. I'm happy to talk to a hiring manager about it. I'm happy to give a little bit more context about it later on. But today, I don't think I'm gonna answer that question. This is a respectable answer at any respectable company. Every company that has given me a fair shake, that has actually not just pushed me around through a bad recruiting cycle, any company that is not shady, a real company, a company that has real customers and real revenue and real people working on it, they're not gonna push you any further than that. I have never flunked an interview, by which I mean an interviewer stops following up or says, hey, sorry, we're not moving forward because you didn't tell us the number you'd be happy with. This has never happened. You are only giving the interviewer power by answering the question. If you answer it in a well-researched way, then you guys are still on even footing, but it will never advantage you. So why answer the question? If for any instance you might end up giving them a number lower than what they were willing to offer you and you bungled it up. Here is an example. If you think less than 1 year of experience you're not worth $150,000 or $200,000 salaries, you would be surprised at some of these tech companies. If you end up saying a number that's like $80,000, $85,000, they'll realize one of the assumptions I laid out before. Either you haven't done your research, you're not actually worth it, or you're just not a good fit. So I hope you enjoyed my 2 ways to answer my favorite trick question an interviewer likes to ask. I'm planning to do 1 to 2 more of these, so if you like this content, give this video a like. It helps other people just like you find the content alongside other content that they like. Recommendation systems, am I right? But you can also do me a favor by checking out one of the links down below, probably the Weibo one that gives you 4 free stocks when you invest $100, or the Robinhood one that gives you a free stock, probably a Microsoft one, if you invest even $1. And as always, hope you guys are having a great day. I'll see you guys next time. Peace. Over the shoulder. Over the leg.
Over the coffee.
Over the leg. You keep messing up.
Over the coffee.